Okay, very, very happy to see that you find your time to be here with us today and to interact with our students. So,
No, not at all, sir. Actually, it's one of the privileges of my job that I get to talk to a lot of students. So I really enjoy it, and I'm happy to be here.
Yes, Karthik sir, I'm Dr. D. Ravindran. So can we proceed? So can
Yes, absolutely.
yes. So requesting MC to start with the program.
Anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. Henry Ford. A very good morning to the honorable dignitaries, respected member of faculties, and my dear champions. Post COVID times, as we all see things getting back to normal, slowly but steadily, and we can't thank God enough for the enormous talent of our talented COVID warriors and frontline workers who are fighting day in and day out towards attaining a COVID free nation. Sometimes all it takes in one prayer to change everything, and there can't be a better way to start today's seminar by giving thanks to God Almighty. Let's start the AIS with a silent prayer. Thank you. Christy Janti School of Management, along with the Institution Innovation Council, has been involved in the awesome conduct of Academia Industry Innovation Series, which has been welcomed by us as one of the most well attended and vibrant sessions in our academia curriculum. Given the presence and involvement of intellectual guests involved, Jenkins have participated and valued session since it has provided engaging ways to explore and illuminate the many lessons and teachings in our semester with the more practical approaches, thereby opening realms of greater knowledge and opportunities. So, without wasting much time, I would like to call upon Mr. Jacob Sam to welcome this awesome gathering.
Thank you, Anjana. The world, as we have created it, is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. Albert Einstein. A very good morning to one and all present here for another virtual session of the Academia Industry Innovative Series on the topic Building a Brand in a Taboo Field for the MBA batch of 2022. It is indeed a pleasure to start this auspicious occasion by heartily welcoming the gathering to this session. Kristu Jayanti School of Management provides its students with an opportunity to learn and grow with new perspectives and experiences, and also assists its students to brand themselves through the Academia Industry Innovative Series, popularly known as AIIS program. It provides the students with an opportunity to meet various personalities who are well versed and have a vast array of experience. It is indeed a privilege for me to welcome our honorable chief guest and the esteemed speaker of the day, Mr. Karthik Johari, Vice President, Noble Hygiene. We are really grateful to you, sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule to address the MBA students of Kristu Jayanti School of Management. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. At this moment, I would also like to welcome Ms. Chitali for joining us in this session.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I take pride in welcoming Dr. Aloysius Edward, Dean, Faculty of Commerce and Management, who has always been a pillar of support for the institution and all the students. I welcome you, sir. I also welcome Dr. M.K. Baby, Head, School of Management, who is our constant source of support and encouragement. I welcome you, sir. It is my immense pleasure to welcome Professor Sen B. Matthews, Director, Center for Employability and Corporate Relations, Kristu Jayanti College. I welcome you, sir. Next, I would also like to welcome Dr. D. Ravindran, the event coordinator for today's AIIS program, who is always supporting and motivating us to express our competence and talents. I welcome you, sir. Finally, I would like to welcome all the faculty members, student coordinators, and my fellow Jayantians to this Academia Industry Innovative Series. Welcoming you all once again. I remain.
Thank you, Jacob Sam. We welcome you as well. Extending the culture of welcome in the same league, I would like to call Ms. Cheryl Susan to introduce our eminent guest, Mr. Karthik Johari, the Vice President of Noble Hygiene.
Thank you, Anjana. Good morning to one and all present here. Let us thank God Almighty for providing us with an opportunity to interact with our most reputed guest, Mr. Karthik Johari. Mr. Karthik Johari is the Vice President of Noble Hygiene. Noble Hygiene was established in the year 2000 by Mr. Kamal Kumar Johari with a view to provide Indian consumers with global quality products customized according to Indian body types. Today, Noble Hygiene is the undisputed leader in the adult diaper category and the only Indian manufacturer of both adult and baby diapers. As one of the fastest growing consumer goods company in India, in the category, their vision is to create a healthier, safer environment for the stages in life where one is most vulnerable and aid them in leading a stress-free life. Noble Hygiene has strong distribution network not only in India but also in countries like Dubai, Oman, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, USA, and some parts of Africa. After 5 years of experience in marketing, sales, and product development in various companies, he joined Noble Hygiene in 2014 as a vice president, marketing and commerce, with the aim of learning, scaling with increasing awareness of adult diapers. At Noble Hygiene, his role consists of tying together the various facets of the company and to increase efficiency in functioning across different verticals. He spearheads the marketing and advertising activities, along with overseeing new product development and human resources to help the company achieve its yearly goals. His company was felicitated as one of the top 100 SMEs of India in 2018 by India SME Forum. Mr. Karthik completed his MBA in marketing from the University of Pittsburgh Katz Graduate School of Business. He credits all his learnings about Indian business to the company and learns more from each market visits. His first formative experiences in sales left him with a deep appreciation of scale in India and how Danda is done on the ground. Sir, it's our great privilege to have you and to hear from you. Sir, I hand over this session to you.
All right. A very good morning to all. Before we formally begin, I would just like to do a check if the screen is visible to everyone and if I am audible as well.
Perfect, sir.
And the animations are working fine.
It's also doing good. Fine, fine, absolutely fine.
Lovely. Excellent. All right. Thank you everyone for having me here today. Thank you, Anjana and Cheryl. I think it was it was a kinder introduction than I deserve, right? I'm very happy to be here with, I think, close to about 80 students at last count. So excellent. So the session is going to flow in a particular manner. Usually if there are about 25 or 30 participants, I'm very comfortable with people unmuting themselves at any point if you want to ask questions, etc. Unfortunately, for this large of a batch, we will not be able to do the same, right? So firstly, thank you for your time. I would like for you to take this entire session, not like a very long drink, but more like condensed shots of information that will flow gradually and may increase in complexity based on who you are. Now, about me. Of course, as the introduction mentioned, Noble Hygiene is one of India's largest manufacturers and the largest private manufacturer of disposable hygiene products. Our brands are spread across with adult diapers, baby diapers, with Rio sanitary napkins. And we really like to think of ourselves as absorption experts. Yes. So that's, however, not one of the reasons I believe you should listen to me. To be very frank, it's only nepotism that's the reason why I'm in this company at the position that I am at. What are things that I've done by myself? Well, I'm the official member of the Forbes Council 2020 and 2021. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was featured on Business World's Disrupt 40 Under 40 list. I have also been Digi Plus Shortlist Award for the content that we've created. There was another Brand Equity Award that I've received at the beginning of the later half of 2020. I'm very proud of the place where I've done my MBA from. We usually, even recently, I think we beat the rankings again, and we're the 30th best institute in the world. I'm a budding seed angel investor and venture capitalist. I'm part of Venture Catalyst as a network. I'm a small limited partner in 9 unicorns. I've invested personally in over 13 plus startups. So these are the things these are some of the things that I have done myself. But again, this is only half the reason I feel why you should listen to me. The other major half is that I've been on your side of the table, and not too many years ago. It is a very profound experience when you feel that you're ending your student life and your academic journey, at least for a decade, and you're going to enter the professional world. For me, the professional world was Noble Hygiene, and I've helped the company scale 10 times of top line revenue in the past 7 years. 2020 has been an enormous year of change for us with the numerous activities, new manufacturing facility coming up, a lot of recognition for both our brands, Friends in Rio, etc. Right? But for all of those, now this is a personal note from me, from all of those who've chosen marketing, the very best of luck to you. Yeah. I'm not good at numbers. I failed from the 7th grade to the 10th grade in maths direct continuously, right? And chose marketing because of it. But to my dismay, marketing is chock full of numbers and programs and applications. So best get used to it fast. Now, I'm going to treat this entire session as 11 bites of a reality sandwich. When I was asked to present what helps build a Daboo brand, the answer is not very dissimilar from what helps build any good brand. And to be very honest, the frank answer is good people build good brands and good products, right? You need to have a high quality product. That's hygiene. That's period. That's said and done. If you're lucky enough to be on the product side of things or on the research side of things, please remember that it's very easy to market an even substandard product, right? But it's not going to scale in the long term. So if you are to be better individuals, and I guess a majority of you are going to be entering the corporate world for the first time, I felt it's best if I tell you what to expect. Only when you know what the world really is like, when you know what to expect, will you be able to perform better? Will you be able to contribute more of value? And at the same time, will then play your fair share in making a great brand, right? In spite of the position that I am at no point in time have I believed it is only my effort, right? None of this, whatever we've done, is a singular effort. It requires, and every business is a people business. So it's going to require for you to understand this really fast and get used to it. All right. So without further ado, to jump straight in. Now, just a disclaimer at the beginning, everything that I mention here is truth, right? This is not merely an alternative reality. This is not subjective, that this is my opinion, etc. Some of those things may sound like, some of the reality bites may sound like opinions, but rest assured, there are reams of psychometric, sociographic, sociocultural, economic studies that back all of these truths up. All right. This is the way the world works. All right. So if you're going to be a part of the world and if you are going to contribute, number one, who controls the world? Rarely do we have an idea of how concentrated power can be. And rarely income inequality is a topic of oft conversation, not only in India, but across every part of the world. Just today in the morning, one new piece of information that I learned, that Netherlands, whilst being in the bottom 10 for income inequality, is actually the number 1 in the world for wealth inequality, right? So there are two very different notions. So think about the media, right? Who controls this media? All of the vast company, all of the channels that you see, all of the content that you consume, it's all from 6 houses itself. That's it, right? There are 6 boards which at the most macro level are controlling every piece of news and information that we see. This is reflected in India as well, where Network TV 18, and you see the various spawns of the same business house, right? From everyone from CNBC TV 18 to a History TV, from a Book My Show to Money Control, to VH1 and Nickelodeon and MTV, which, this seems strange when you think about it. But if you can imagine working in any of these organizations, either as a sales perspective, if you're going to be an entrepreneur and going to start your own business or sell your own product, you're going to be working with a lot of these organizations to help spread awareness about them. If you're in finance, you may be auditing some of these subsidiaries, right? So know the world you're entering into. Who can scientist, I think, from MIT, and he asked a question saying, who controls the world? So what he did is, being vastly more competent than any of us on this call, I believe, he took the entire data set of all public markets in the world and linked them upstream and downstream, right? So that means if PepsiCo is a company in India, it is a part of a global subsidiary, and the owners of Pepsi are fragmented across. The owners of those companies are fragmented across. So it's not really like a waterfall, but a vast network, right? A 3-dimensional network, similar actually to sort of like a human neural network, like a brain, right? And he found that at the very core, right, which is some point oh 04 or 0.004, there's only 1,300 companies or nodes that control a vast majority of information and power that goes outside, right? 0.123 have the potential to control 80% of the market, correct? This is very important to know, because you need to know what side of the table you are on, and you need to understand all power dynamics if you're ever going to successfully navigate, whether that's corporate or whether that's your own lives, correct? Look at the leverage at potential here, right? 740 players approximately control 80% of TNC value. TNC stands for transnational corporations. That means what we commonly refer to as a multinational corporation, but they extend their reach to various countries, right? So thus are listed across multiple exchanges, etc., etc. So if this is surprising to some, awesome. I'm glad to have shared something new right at the outset. If it's not surprising for anyone, actually, this is something that I do at the beginning of every class. If any of the participants or students here know more than 5 of these 11 points, you get a fast-tracked interview process at Noble Hygiene if you want to join any of our teams. Yeah, you get to sit straight across the table from me, but you have to be honest about it. It's very important. If the world is the infrastructure and the bodies and the organizations around it, the money is the life flow. It's a very common fact, however, but the importance of it cannot be understated. And this is something I learned over a decade ago in my BMS, is that the Federal Reserve, which is the main monetary body of the United States, is a private entity. All right. A private entity controls the global currency, and a private entity controls the direction in which the US economy operates. About 40% of all US dollars in existence were printed in the last 12 months, correct? You need to understand inflation. You need to understand how systems and how the money works. Only then will you know your mediums. Only then will you understand, right? If you're going to enter into marketing and you're going to set up campaigns, and I'm sure a lot of you, if you are serious about the field, would have already done so on Facebook or Twitter, etc. Do you know how much of money across Facebook can be pooled into your own category? Do you know how cross flows in money happen from Facebook to Instagram, how you can take advantage of those to improve upon your consumer data and to improve upon your traffic sources, right? You need to know your medium. You need to know how the money flows, all right? So So far, so good. I hope everyone's with me and I hope everyone's okay. This was simply point one. So we have 10 more points to discuss. All right. Lovely. Number two, no one owes you anything. By anything, I mean no one owes you a return call to your missed call. No one owes you a reply to your mail. No one owes you a red blue tick on WhatsApp. No one owes you a meeting. No one owes you a job. No one owes you 5 seconds of their valuable time, right? The sooner you learn this lesson, the better it is for you. Stay humble, hustle hard. Some of the best individuals that I've worked with and who I respect very, very much and who have gone on to climb the corporate ladder and do great things. Forget the corporate ladder on one side, but have gone on to do excellent things with their time because they remember this very fact, right? You have to stay humble, you have to hustle hard. Hustle hard. What does hustle hard means? It means that the person who gets a call back or the ones who sets up a meeting is the one who is unashamed to follow up repeatedly. Following through and following up is one of the most vastly underrated skill sets in the professional and honestly as a personal factor as well, right? I simply people at scale do not have time to reply to singular emails. Not all of them can afford teams to look after processes for them, right? There is no shame in following up on your query. There is no shame in knowing the fact that you are not above anyone else. And this very phenomenon is something which is known as a third generation gap, right? Which is very easily noted in multi-generational businesses that, it's usually the first generation that sets a business up. It's usually the second generation that, really scales it and becomes vast. And it's the third generation that brings it all to ground. It's because the first generation grew up in times of hardship. So they understand the value of what they made. The second generation usually has seen all of that, but has lived in a more comforted, protected environment. Third generation is usually very far removed from the realities of business. Very few families around the world have perfected the art of wealth flowing across generations, right? There's another saying that they have in finance. It says that the timing of the market will never beat time spent in market, right? So the more amount of years you're invested in, the better your yield is a potential to be. So always remember there are sovereign funds and there are wealth funds and there are trust funds that have been invested in all forms of asset classes for 400, 300 years, So you need to know how the world works. So at the end of it, this lesson is vastly important because peace begins where expectation ends, right? There's no point in giving yourself untold grief simply because people are not responding to you, simply because you're not getting the breakthrough that you required, that your efforts are not being recognized at work. There is no need for recognition. You should have your own plan, you should have your own goals and objectives, and your own work should be taking you one step towards it all of the way. All of the awards that I've won so far, I'm actually very proud to say that for none of them, I had to reach out to anyone, right? It was usually my team that mostly forces me to enter into these contests at sometimes. And a lot of other partners and agencies I've collaborated with have been kind enough to nominate me for certain other panels where we've judged the FEs, etc. Right? So that's never why I work. I work because I enjoy it and I learn. Three, understand compounding. Now, this matters not only in terms of your finance, but in terms of money, right? Compounding is one of the most powerful forces in the world. And again, I learned this fact very, very late in my own personal life, which is why I make sure I include it in every session that I give. The sooner you understand it, the better, right? I'm sure supply chain experts in the organization have studied Kaizen. For anyone who doesn't know what this is, very simply put, it stands for one step forward every day, right? The very ethos of Kaizen utilizes the power of compounding. The fact that one step a day is better than none. And at the end of the year, you're going to be 350 steps ahead of where you would be in the first place. You, at a very young age and the fire of youth, obviously, is you have there's not enough time spent for you to get the value of this, right? The first time, honestly, I understood this was from a video game, to be very point blank, is where you start off playing off as a character and you're a very pithy high schooler. And I was like, where all these stats are. Firstly, I don't even have time to play video games, and there's no ways I'm ever going to max this out. But the game was good. So just a couple of hours in every weekend and couple of days here or there, I realized a month down the line that my character had maxed out all his stats whilst he was stuck in school and fighting monsters on the side. Small steps every day, right? It's ridiculous that I have to learn this from a video game. But the fact is, it's true, right? There's a great video called Napkin Finance, which again will be in one of the links that I share, which shows and paints this picture out very, very clearly, showing that, again, the previous rule, that time spent in market is more important, that simply by existing, simply by being there, by making consistent efforts every day, whether it is on money or time or to improve yourself, consistency and meticulousness is rewarded like nothing else, right? And trust me, this is coming from someone who is not disciplined or meticulous in the least, right? It's a very hard lesson that I've had to learn for myself. So one of the things that helped me to do this was, and this is something that Professor Jordan Peterson, one of the respected authors and speakers that I follow, he says, do something and aim low, right? The easiest, clearest example of this is if you want to read a book, you start with 1 page a day. That's it. Don't tax yourself. I started with push-ups, do 5 a day. You can do 5 a day. Anyone can do 5 a day. The point is not to lose your streak, right? You have to keep it going. And usually we don't end up undertaking anything and waste months in procrastination is because our aims are too high, right? We may not be bad people. They're all mostly good people, right? At the core of it, however, our own expectations are what keep us back. So please understand compounding, and please understand that it's better to do something than to do nothing. So whatever it is that you wish to do, jealousy is a very good place to start in your own minds because it shows what you're yearning for internally, right? So do that and take the smallest step towards it. That's all you need to do. 4, read. Read everything. Unfortunately, there is no way around it. If you have convinced yourself through some hyperbole, or if you and your friends get together and say that it's okay, I can get by, I have other skill sets, etc., it's all nonsense. Reading is the superpower of the current era. There is simply no better, faster, and vivid way to absorb information than reading, right? Listening to podcasts for books, fantastic. That's a great start. And watching movies of Harry Potter instead of reading the books, cool. At least if you got you into the fictional universe, but nothing will ever replace the sheer act of reading, right? It literally makes you smarter. Reading rewires your neural cortexes in ways that we haven't completely understood yet. You are stimulating multiple experiences in your mind when you read content, whether that's a fictional book, whether that's Robin Sharma, whether that's The Alchemist, whatever it is, right? Again, remember, aim low. It's better to read something than to read nothing at all. At the very least, you'll have a chance to then at some point read something of significance, whether if it's The Alchemist or not, and I don't find The Alchemist to be of any significance, but it's unfortunately one of the most quoted books that I've come across in interviews saying, oh, I like to read. Oh, what's your favorite book? The Alchemist. They're out completely, right? I have walked out of interviews at that stage. So start to read, right? There's a thing in psychology which is called mirror neurons, and the act of seeing something brings upon the same stimulus to you internally. Reading thus does this in profound ways, right? You cannot get out of this. You have to read. Read a lot in volume and in variety. All of these websites are again going to be a part of the docket. Subscribe to them. Some of these are paid. Some of them offer free articles every month. There are numerous other sources where you can go and read for free, right? But please continue to read. There is no way around it. And this, what I'm recommending here on the screen, is just as a top line list of digital content. To truly make a difference in your life, you need to read books, right? I'm not going to get into the Kindle versus a physical book argument, but understand actual content apart from short form consumable content. You need to read. 5, speak well, always. if reading is in your mind very hard to approach with, and you don't deem it to be the true superpower, language really is. It is sacrosanct, right? Every single conversation of your life, every negotiation that you undertake, every interaction, every potential possibility to either gain or lose something new or old is derivative of your words. You are only as good as you can communicate. You are only as good as you speak, right? There is unfortunately no way around this fact. From the most banal of examples, which is to negotiate in a salary negotiation, right, or in an interview, to be able to communicate your points. When you're working, to be able to communicate your perspectives well to not only your seniors but your co-workers, right? Please remember, every business is a people's business. That's why we started down this road and this deck, right? So you need to know how to use your words. Even all your personal relationships are going to be impacted by this deeply. So unless you can speak well, unless you have a variety of ways to express yourself, different tonalities that you can employ, the ways, different approaches that you can use with people, let me be frank at the outset, you're not going to get very ahead in any aspect, right? There's a deep frustration to living life knowing that no one can understand you, or that not many people understand you. Half the onus is, more than half the onus is on you, right? There's an old adage that says, um, a messenger's job is not done until the message is comprehended, right? It's not enough that you delivered it. You need to make sure it's understood. So the prerogative is upon you, the speaker of the words. Number 6, no tech. And this goes beyond your phones, right? We are all in a digital environment. We are all seeing the ramifications of technology all around us. You will note in time, and Mr. Baby and your other professors would be in a far better position to paint pictures of the past. Your parents would be, right? But even for someone, so even for all of us, as young as us, we realize that things are going fast, right? It's a very different environment to learn in, to work in, to execute it. And there is no excuse for you to not knowing tech. You don't need to know how to code, but you need to understand how the logic works. You don't need to understand how to build an app, but you need to know how they interact amongst an ecosystem of apps, how all ecosystems interact with each other, and how permissions and other interplays work. This is a core of you, not only as a person and your own personal usage, but of everything that you will work with and create, right? I have colleagues of mine who are now working with major banks, and not that they ever imagined that they would be in an opportunity to work with banks. But they're working now on the marketing and on the tech side of things, and they're working on new app deployments and new lazy pay functionalities and very exciting micro lending solutions, right? But all of them are delivered through an app. So unless you're very familiar with how an app network works, you're not going to be very good at your job, right? You cannot understate the importance of technology. The people in finance are still not as deeply impacted as the ones in marketing or the ones in supply chain. Supply chain is all the rage right now, right? My younger brother has a MBA in supply chain operations, and unfortunately, I was very disappointed when he chose that as his specialization. Because my logic is that if an AI is going to be doing 90% of the facet of the job that you're learning to do now, where are you going to be 10 years down the line? Is there any logic for you to go and learn supply chain? And honestly, I'm invested in a company that is taking away a lot of routine work from import, export, etc. Right? By creating a beautiful dashboard, and all importers love the software and they're joining in droves. Right? So this is the way of the future. If you cannot maintain your own laptop, if you cannot understand why defragmentation exists in the first place, if you cannot do basic network 101 analysis, कि internet connect क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, you're not going to get far, right? This is reality. Again, you need to know this. I wonder how many of you have seen this ad. See, now this is one of the advantages of a smaller session, that the mics would have been off and I could have gotten feedback. But let's assume about 10% of you would have seen this Gatorade ad, right? It's called the Running Man. And How is this made? This is now actual drops of water. The injector that you see at the top was programmed in that manner to deploy water droplets so a singular frame and then is captured in a high speed frame camera. And you're creating this animation of the running man from actual drops of water synchronized by computer programming. This was a phenomenal marketing creative, right? This is another very popular one for Apple. I think this was for the new Apple Pod or Home or some product of theirs, right? But this entire ad was created with the vision of knowing how a moving set works. It's a one shot, right? It's not a one shot take. There are but long shots in it, like the GIF that you see on screen right now. The entire set was expanding in the dimensions. Do you think you could have made this Running Man ad, or even had the possibility to imagine how to make this, if you don't have the working understanding of what is possible with technology? Do you know how many frames the human eye sees at? Do you know how many frames the camera captures at? Do you know how? I don't know how to code those water jets. I know the possibility of it, though. I know that it can be done if I get a good enough programmer and a couple of injection molds. Do you think you would be any position to conceptualize this award-winning Apple commercial if you don't have a functional knowledge of how mechanical engineering works, right? You can't. You simply don't. You're lacking perspective. So, in order to succeed at the world, you need to know this perspective, and technology is core to this, right? Again, for the ones in marketing, you're going to step into a world which is consumed with technology. Ad tech is booming and growing, and there are now marketing jargon is competing with the finance guys. We have all sorts of CPCs, CREs, MRMs, and what the hell not, right? Everything has an abbreviation, everything has numbers at the end of it. And then again, to be very good at your job, you need to understand how these systems operate so you can get the best out of these systems, right? There are numerous tools that you're going to have to be comfortable with, irrespective of the domain that you go into. You need to know how to work within CRMs. You need to then utilize that well. You need to know how user flows operate. Great user flows can be made only when you have a rudimentary understanding of programming logic, right? You don't need to code anything. It's in an open field. You'll be just pulling shapes and typing, but your processing ability has to be there. You need to know what's happening on the back end, right? So welcome to the world. If you think you've gotten away so far by not knowing advertising, by not knowing technology, you're sorely mistaken. Number 7, exposure is king. The world is extraordinarily diverse, right? Please make an effort to step outside of your comfort zones. I urge as many people as I can who have the opportunity to do so, to wash your own underwear, right? So this means, this necessitates you having to get out of your own home, out of your own city, ideally your own country. Go and stay somewhere for a couple of years. Go work somewhere else. Go experience what other cultures are like. Go see what different organizations are like, right? Go see how people operate. I've had phenomenal experiences working with people from Germany versus people from Portugal versus people from China. It's a huge world out there, right? We cannot be, the US unfortunately has this mindset, right? It's very prideful to not move outside your state. I have gone and had conversations with people who have been very proud that they've never left their hometown, right? We can't afford to be that way. World is massive. So learn more and more about it, right? Interact with more and more people. It's the only way to get an enriched perspective of the world, right? And going abroad and washing your own underwear, believe me, is not an act of privilege. I know some extraordinarily brave people who have gone abroad while having minimal resources, right? My very own best friend who I met in the US, it's a funny story, which I don't have the privilege of sharing with you, but his whatever the MBA costed, he had only 10% of it. But he hustled his way there. He was the first one of us to get a part-time job, the first one of us to get a full-time job after all the startups, etc. And he's now a crypto millionaire back in Chandigarh, working on 2 startups at his own time, right? He's had nothing and no backing. but his dream and drive was to go see the world. So you've got to do that. 8. Mental maths is important, right? Let's leave the finance guys aside. As I already confessed, I'm not a great math whiz. I've failed numerous times across numerous exams. When I cleared my 12th, I had 37 out of 100 and 2 marks above passing grade. And I was actually confident that I should not have gotten below 49. And when my mom asked my professor saying, "Oh, why did we get for reval?" My tuition professor said that, "Yeah, at least he's passed, don't take that step." But the more I've gotten into business, I've realized that there is no way around the ability to do mental math, right? It's not about knowing logarithmic tables. It's not about doing derivatives or integrations, but you need to know the 10th standard math, which everyone commonly refers to, right? You need to know how to break down percentages in your mind. Why? Because you need to know that if you're talking with a dealer or a distributor, that how much of a profit margin or incentive margin can they stand to earn. If you're working on marketing metrics, you need to understand what percentage of what traffic is flowing through your conversion funnels. If you're sitting in supply chain, you need to know at what percentage burn are your fleets operating at, and what percentage of that is of revenue of your top line as compared to the target that you were given. This is only in percentages. So there are fractions aside, other probabilities aside, and of course the argument still stands. You will always have a calculator, you will always have excels now, to help you with, but in a conversation, in an important negotiation, you will not have the time to pull that out. If you, at the very least of opportunities, if you're going to be locking in your own home, right? And if the banker you're sitting across saying that, okay, I'm going to offer you maybe 11.5% compounded biannually, you need to break that down quickly to seem competent to bargain at that point. You can't be like, oh, wait, let me take out my calculator and figure this out. If you're going to be negotiating with your landlord and he's going to say that, okay, give me a 6% locked in increment year on year for the number of years that you stay in with, unless you in 2 seconds know how much of value impact that is, you're not going to be able to counter effectively. So mental math is very important. Get yourself comfortable with it. I have had colleagues and teammates who've joined me. I've made sure that they've gone through mathematical tables, like 10 minutes every day in office, on office time. Go through the 12 ones are 12, 12 twos are 24, go till 20. It is vastly important. This is very easy. It seems very easy to listen, number 9, but it's not. To listen without judgment. If you go across and you look at what the top performers in the world are talking about, the top business leaders, the top CEOs, the top entrepreneurs, this advice is consistent. You need to know how to listen patiently and without judgment. A great place to practice is at home, because none of us, unfortunately, have the power to change our parents or our societal environment, at least at a young age, right? To influence them and to erode away certain beliefs, and to have conversations on an equal footing. You first need to show the fact that you can listen calmly and you can listen without judgment. The higher up all of you go in a corporate ladder, the more of this skill is employed. The highest, the upper echelons of performance are not based on technical competencies. They're not based on how many patents a person has or on how many lines of codes has he written. It's almost always based on how good of a listener and a communicator the person is. This is the reality of life. And another reality is that most people like to talk, So listening with patience is not the toughest thing to achieve in the world. If you sit down in a normal meeting and just commit to yourself of not contributing for 15 minutes and just listening, you will come to realize this simple fact that everyone wants to talk. Everyone wants to talk about themselves, about their opinions, about their perspectives. Give them the opportunity to do so, right? It is very much easy then after a point to then communicate your own perspective, because you've given them the opportunity to state theirs, right? And if you learn to listen without judgment, at every interaction and every opportunity, you will find new things to learn. You will find newer experiences, right? But non-judgment is important for that. So, as I mentioned before, that exposure was king, psychology is queen. Again and again, I've been repeating that, every business is a people's business. So, for the very same, if you don't understand people, you're not going to get far, right? There's one of the most impactful books that I've ever read in my life. It's called The Righteous Mind by Professor Jonathan Haidt, who is a neuroscientist, I think out of NYU. And his entire hypothesis was there were two very important ones that left an impact on me, right? So the first one is that every mind comes pre-programmed. How your tongue has zones for taste, which is actually disproved by the way by now, but the analogy still holds good. Your brain has certain emotions and ethoses that it is geared towards, right? If you can imagine a thermostat on top of each, so everyone's care dial is dialed to a certain level, fairness is dialed to a level, loyalty is dialed to a level, etc. Everything in your life and in your psychometric profile stems from these 6 characteristics. All your religiosity, how much you believe in God and how fastidious you are, stems from sanctity. Cleanliness also stems from sanctity. How, especially people who have allegiances and who are successful in military or large scale organizations, they have a higher gear towards authority, right? Leaders have this as well, because you need to have a very high dial for loyalty, to inspire loyalty, right? So these are the zones of our mind. Every person comes with these, right? And it's a static that exists. The most important thing to understand with anything is the why, right? You need to know why a person functions the way they do. Why is he talking the manner in which he's speaking? Why is he involved in this specific choice or career or decision at this point in his life? You have to understand people, right? The other analogy that was in the book was, again, if you can imagine an elephant and a mahout, right? Who is in control? Now, it's a very interesting question. The mahout in the example is us, is our top mind. The elephant is our subconscious. Most of the times, the mahout is in control. The elephant goes, the mahout tells them. But if the elephant is pissed off, no matter what the mahout or the caretaker is trying to say, he's not going to listen, right? So know yourself and know your body. If your subconscious is upset, you're not going to be able to perform at the best of your ability. You're not going to be able to meet your goals. So you need to understand how psychology works, not only to sell better, but to function better as well, right? And I'm sure this is not news for anyone, but selling is essential to life. It's one of the first lessons in one of the most classic books of all time, which is Rich Dad and Poor Dad, right? Every single conversation that you have is a selling pitch. You're selling yourself for an interview, you're selling products, you're selling your own self in relationships, you're selling your ideas and perspectives to your children. Everything is a sell, right? So you need to understand people if you're going to sell really well. Number 11 is to encourage serendipity. And this is the last one, right? Throughout all of this, if you're going to be able to be lucky, right? Recognize firstly that luck is very important in life. Everyone from Elon Musk to Bill Gates, to Mark Zuckerberg, some of the greatest technological minds who we see now, some of the greatest philosophers of the past, all of them say that they're lucky to be at the point of where they are, right? It's every person, they say, has 3 big waves to catch in their lives. It's only that you have to have your ears and eyes open towards the opportunity when it presents itself. And you have to create your own luck. There's again a fantastic TED talk on this, right? But what it basically stands for is, we've already covered the last one, which is hearing. All right. So you're going to need to hear without bias, without judgment, and hear a lot. You're going to have to be optimistic. That means grit. It is the single most important factor for all successful companies in the world. Grit means endurance, your sheer ability to not give up and to persevere, right? And in the middle is inconveniencing yourself, because it's easy to endure things and to be optimistic and to be very comfortable hearing things within your own comfort zones and within your own bubbles. Only when you go out, right? Remember, wash your own underwear. Inconvenience yourself. In those small steps of reality, will you only truly realize and get new flashes of insight, right? The frog in the well syndrome. The only way you get lucky is if you move out of the well. No one has ever achieved anything of importance or has had some great breakthrough whilst not pushing their boundaries, right? Nothing's going to fall into your lap. Remember rule number 2, no one owes you anything, correct? So you have to create your own luck, my friends. And the good news is that the only person who can stop it is you, right? So you're there now. As a bonus, and thank you for being patient so far. I don't know how long have I spoken. I think about 40 minutes, I guess. Um, Work out consistently. That's again a bonus tip at the end, right? Not to get into the depth of it, but again, a very hard realization for me personally, because I read a lot, so I could afford to sacrifice my body, saying I'm investing in my mind. It doesn't matter if I can't do a pull-up. I'll let people talk to me. I can talk about anything. But unfortunately, your brain doesn't work at its maximum capacity unless your body is being fully utilized. The time I learned this was a profound change in my own personal life. Now doing some sort of workout, even though I'm not very good at it because discipline is an issue, it's still top of mind for me. I would like to do something 15 minutes at the very least every day. Do those 10 push-ups, do those stretches, do some crunches. At least your body is limber. It feels better. There's more blood flowing. Your brain appreciates it. Only when you do it will you realize the impact that it has. And believe me, it has a cognizable impact on your thinking and on your ability to perform. There is, again, very rarely have I come across people in the Indian professional scene who are very senior or who are high performers and who are physically unfit, right? No one is. My own director of sales, head of sales right now. He was a director level at Johnson and Johnson's. We're very lucky to have him with us. Mr. Bhatnagar is thinner than I am right now and goes for 10-kilometer jogs every morning. It's usually the young ones who don't appreciate, like me, who don't appreciate their health, right? So whether you take all the 11 or then the bonus 12th one or not is up to you. This session's open now to ask me any sort of questions, completely free, open bar. I know that I haven't spoken about my brands. You are free to ask me anything about whatever we've discussed so far, or about the work that we've done with Friends Adult Diapers, about the pioneering work that we've done with Rio sanitary napkins, about any of the other processes that we have, about the technicalities of a diaper. Please feel free. You can ask me about anything, right? And thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your patience. If all of you have only taken away just one thing at the end of it, I would say that my hours invested here have been useful, right? So thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, dear students, now, yeah, the floor is open. Over to MC now. How will you go about taking questions?
Anyone is ready to raise any questions or short of queries to our chief guest?
So good evening, sir. No, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So you were talking about ad tech, which actually really intrigued me because I actually want to go to that segment. So I wanted to ask you like technical thing. If one student is actually going to that aspect, like how does one person go to that field? Like because right now I'm thinking that if I am going to that particular field, I have to know editing softwares, such as all sorts of Adobe and all sorts of technical softwares where I can recreate like those ads if I'm doing in a small project or any sort of thing. So, in your experience,
Yes.
how does one student go to that aspect of ad tech or more information? So, because studying digital marketing and knowing this, it gave a bit insight to me, but just the path is missing, sir.
Correct. So at the outset, I think a hygiene requirement, I believe you should have done your Google courses. You need to have the SEO course. You need to have the AdWords course. Finish. That's hygiene, right? That shows that you know the language and you worked in those systems. Secondly, there's unfortunately no better way to experience all of this than OJT, right? If you're very sure that this is what you want to do, I'm sorry, OJT stands for on the job training, right? You need to apply and work in the right environments with the companies where you get exposure to this. Work for marketing agencies who specialize in SEO, who specialize in performance marketing, who specialize in large scale campaign deployments. Even at the outset, right? SMS campaigns, etc. In the current age now, with parallel WhatsApp integration, with chatbot integrations, and all the information from this flowing into CRMs or into other data sets that can be analyzed, all of this is vastly important, correct? A lot of these very cool softwares, and you should Google and you should see so many of them exist, they usually offer a free trial version or something, right? The best way to know something is to just jump into it. So go mess around on the system as much as you can. At least you'll be familiar with the dashboards and some of the terminology when you show up at your first day of work, right? All you need is that one step up. If you're going to reach on your first day and you ask two poignant questions that no one else has, that's enough for you to stand out. The compounding of the extra attention or the extra information that your manager will give you from that point on, because you've shown an insight to want to learn and you've shown proactiveness that you've displayed on your own accord, will carry you for the next 2 years. And if you do it well and if you execute things well, you will be in a position where you learn a lot, right? Unfortunately, before you join or before you execute campaigns for yourself, there's only an X amount of progress that you can make, right? But you need to have your courses done, be familiar with the platforms of what you need to use, and try and get into that kind of profile at the very outset. I hope
Thank
I've
you, sir.
answered your question, and please feel
Yes.
free to ask another follow-on if it's not been clear enough.
Yes, sir. So I totally like what you said is the best thing, sir, because I actually have done courses on digital marketing. So, sir, thank you so much, sir, on your insights, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir. This is
Good morning. Very good morning.
Sir. I had a question. Like, if I'm looking for a career in marketing, and will I be looking into, say, in my second year, I have to take a specialization. So, will I take core marketing? Would it be fine, or do I analytics?
Core
Analytics
marketing versus?
A single specialization where I take 10 electives as a marketing, or do I take even business analytics? So, how important would marketing and business analytics be? Business analytics in marketing?
I would say there is no future in marketing unless you're in business analytics, right? Whether it's going to be a core essential of your first few jobs or not, the very fact that you understand what metrics a business is going to use to judge what marketing is, I think that is what is crucially important. You may not need to do an entire course on it, but you definitely need to understand what is the purpose of marketing. It is to sell more product, to spread more value, to ensure that customers, whether of a service or of a product or of an idea, understand more of it, right? So how are you going to ever judge that you've been successful at your job unless you know what to measure? Unless you know, how will you ever design proper campaigns unless you know what the company truly wants and expects, right? There are so many people who have interviewed and who worked as a part of my team because they wanted to know how the brand side or the business side works, right? These guys have spent 3 years, 10 years in an agency environment, have been top performers there. They worked on Cannes winning campaigns. But when they come to brand side, their brains are blown because it's so easy to sit on the agency side or thinking marketing is something which is a creative exercise and come up with a script that costs an X amount of crores. The deployment of that on media is going to be 18 crores, and you not understanding what business impact it is going to make, or you not even having any clue of whether it is the right way to deploy $20 million or not. $21 million, 21 crores is $3 million. It's not a small sum of money, right? So you need to understand what the business is expecting. So business analytics is very important. Yes. Now, in terms of what electives, etc., you need to pick, to each their own palate, my friend. I can't tell you whether chili chicken is better than butter chicken. Everyone has their own preference.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Karthik sir,
Yes.
this is Ravindran. So, I had a few years of experience in marketing with respect to the
Okay.
people management. With respect to the answer you given for the analytics, I have a little bit doubt, sir. Because
Mm-hmm.
we are also introduced to business analytics as a specialization. Initially, we started with the business analytics. Later, we
I'm
extended.
sorry, Ravindra, your voice is not very clear at all. We can barely hear you.
Now it is okay, sir.
A bit better, yes?
Okay. So now we introduce the business analytics as a separate specialization. Okay. So in this, we have R, Python, Excel, SAS, etc.
Okay.
What is
Oh, okay.
okay? What is the observation from my end as a marketing person with some experience? Many students are able to use R, Python, etc. But when it comes to application of these or how to choose the variables, they are lagging on site.
Yes.
So from my experience, when I say when I worked in the company, if I need the data, I have to instruct the person called a data executive. Maybe they may be 12th standard or BSc computer science. Whatever the data I'm giving, within a fraction of seconds, they will give me the data. So my boss always says, for getting the data, don't put more effort. They will be taking care. Whatever the analysis you want, instruction they will do for you. But you should have the logic, which variable, how it has to be analyzed. You should know only the logic. But now
Correct.
in the academic, we are speaking more about learn about analysis, more about languages. So even the MCA or MSc computer science people knowing better analytics than us, but they are not so much flourishing in the industry. So here the confusion comes with the students, as Hari asked, how they should have a mix.
I am not a professional to judge what the elective is, what elective would be appropriate. If I've understood this correctly, business analytics, where you teach those coding languages, is a separate specialization as compared to marketing. Yes?
Yes, sir. We are actually offering dual specialization. They can do five marketing subjects and five analytics subjects.
Okay.
But what I understood, the people who are choosing analytics, they are more into analytics. They know R, Python, etc. But they forget about the importance of the marketing. So when I give some data, they are able to analyze. But when I instruct them to choose the data, they are still lagging. So the confusion is whether they have more focus on the analysis or the marketing. Whatever they may be preparing.
Sir, I don't think that there's a black and white answer to this. If they are unable to focus on the right variables for whatever reason, and I would say, firstly, I would say it's unfair to expect a person with 2 3 years of experience to judge the right variables, right? His bosses should be in command of that. If you know the business, if you've operated in the industry for quite a number of years, you know what is important as a business metric to judge. Make sure that the team understands the why, teach them. Then they will know where to deploy what variable, right? Unfortunately, what I've seen happen is that a lot of times when you have requests to make, no one really paints out the context for the request, right? Thus, at the end of it, even after working for a couple of years, obviously they don't have a very good grasp of why this metric is very important. We see this in data intelligence all the time, and the better the result always happens is when the manager takes pains and efforts to explain the context of the inquiry, irrespective of the volume or the importance of the inquiry. You have to know why you have been asked to look at those important metrics, right? So there's no clear cut answer for this. I think you need to know both sides of the table. But if you have in marketing, however, at least in my side of specializations, which is FMCG, and other ilk, not going into B2B SaaS services. Strictly knowing coding languages is not a prerequisite. You can get by fine without.
Yes, sir.
I
So
hope I was
I
clear.
believe so. Excel, if you know very good about the Excel, that is more than enough for analyzing the data. It can be extracted
Yes,
from other analytics, but we should be thorough with the first Excel first.
yes, absolutely. There is no easy way around this. You need to know how Excel's work. You need to know how pivot tables work. You need to be able to do basic structural calculations, right? Whether that's on an efficiency analysis, probabilities, or whether you need to do cost margins or profitability analysis. Those things need to be ingrained, right? All my need to is from the perspective of you wanting to be a very successful person. If are you going to get by without knowing how to deploy pivot tables? Yeah, sure, you're going to have good food on the table and you're not going to die. But if you truly want to succeed, there is no way around any of this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for that fabulous and highly intellectual session and your valuable input towards all the queries. It's time we move towards the end stage of today's event. Gratitude is the attitude that sets the altitude for living. Hence, as planned, to do the honors of giving gratitude, I would like to invite Mr. Alvin Joseph to propose.
Thank you, Anjana. Thanksgiving is a time of togetherness and gratitude. Nigel Hamilton. Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks for the Visual Academia Industry Innovative Series. On behalf of Kristu Jayanti School of Management, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Karthik Johari, Vice President, Noble Hygiene, and Mrs. Shaidali, who spared time from their busy schedule and gave the insight. It was really a qualitative and informative session. Thank you, sir and ma'am. I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to thank I'm happy to thank our principal, Reverend Dr. Augustine George, for his constant support and encouragement in organizing these kinds of programs. I thank Father in his absence. I would like to thank Dr. Aloysius Edward, Dean, Faculty of Commerce and Management, for his encouragement. Thank you, sir. I'm delighted to thank Dr. M.K. Baby, Head, School of Management, for giving guidance and creating an equal opportunity for all the students to benefit from this program and providing great support in all our endeavors. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank Professor Sen B. Matthews, Director, Center for Employability and Corporate Relations, for always connecting industry experts with us. Thank you, sir. My sincere gratitude to Dr. D. Ravindran, the faculty coordinator of this Virtual Academia Industry Innovative Series, your efforts towards making this event a grand success and giving us an opportunity to organize this session. Thank you, sir. I thank all the faculty members and my fellow Jayantians for their support and cooperation. Thanking you all once again, I remain.
I request Achuri sir to give the concluding remarks. Please, sir.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Karthik Johari. It's really been a pleasure listening to you. Like, I was actually expecting you to probably speak on, building up a brand uh, in a Daboo field where you are currently in. But then this was really, really amazing because the way that enlighten the students with the real tips of life which they have to hold on if they want to come up in their professional and personal life. It's not just tips, but it's 11 mantras, I should say, which young corporates and students should never forget because there is no shortcut to success. And from your own experience and from the kind of exposure that you had while interacting with some of the successful, entrepreneurs as well as businessmen, uh, it's just been amazing listening to because I was also just thinking how rightly said that the power to read, the power of listening, the power of expressing ourselves, all this we just take for granted. But then even the mental math, you said no, you don't get the time. Now these days I find our students relying too much on gadgets like calculators, computers for all kind of calculations. But there will be situations where you will have to do the mental math and then respond, immediately. So it's all very, very important, and it was really amazing listening to you. I look forward for more opportunity to be associated with you as a person and as a corporate, man. And on behalf of the School of Management, it's my pleasure, expressing my deep sense of appreciation for the goodwill that you've shown and for this valuable time that you spent with my students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Baby. Thank you. It was my pleasure. And if I can request all the students to go follow our brands to stay in touch with what we've been doing, I'll be more than happy to come back next time if you want to talk specifically about how the brands are made, etc. But I'm happy that I was able to provide at least some value and some perspective of how the real world will operate for the students when they step in.
Definitely, definitely.
Lovely.
Thanks,
All
sir.
right.
So for your wonderful share.
And I also thank you, Chaitanya ma'am, to joining with us. Now I request to all the students, please switch on your camera for a photo session. Now let us all join for the college anthem.
Like a golden disc, sun in the rising east, lights up a life divine, fills knowledge in our minds. Laurels and the book make us sublime. With the mighty Lord, we soar high on the bedrock of faith. Integrity upholds, human dignity true, excellence we strive. Christu giant delight and prosperity. Christu giant delight and prosperity. Rays of joy and peace sprawl our hearts and minds. On we march our goals as a beacon for the world, with a passion for our growth and a love for humankind, united and strong in excellence on the bedrock of faith. Integrity upholds, human dignity true, excellence we strive. Christu giant delight and prosperity. Christu giant delight and prosperity.
I once again thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom and your valuable time. Now let us wait till dignitaries take leave.
Thank you.